So what I'm going to do is just setting up basically probably the top of the head and the base of the chin, and I'm going to draw that axis. And then I'm going to come in and actually I'll do it here and then here. So then halfway between that distance, we're going to place the eye line. So that would be this line right here. And then what we can do is kind of look at the distance from that eye line to the base of the chin. Keep losing all my other papers here. And the insertion point of the nose and the opening of the mouth along that axis. So it looks like there is between the eye line and where the nose, the base of the nose inserts on the upper lip, that is just shorter than the distance from that point to the chin, the base of the chin. So you want to look for those clues and basically those landmarks. So then the nose is, the base of the nose is there, the chin is there, and the mouth, he seems to have somewhat of a short upper lip right here. So we're going to throw the mouth line in there as well. The cheeks kind of come in, you can kind of see this bulge right here and this bulge right here. If you follow that in, kind of lines up right at the insertion point of the mouth, or the corners of the mouth. So we can kind of throw that in there. And I'm going to throw in that circle, and then create the egg from that. And then we kind of judge the distance from the center line, that center axis, to the edge of the head where the ears insert. And of course his is covered up by the sideburns. But you'll notice that the iris is kind of center halfway between that center line and the side of the head. So again, we're judging scale, we're judging distance, we're judging angles. And so I'm going to set my iris right there because he's looking straight ahead. And then kind of indicate the rest of the eyeball very lightly, because that's going to give me an understanding of what's going on in here and on the outer edge of the eye. And it's going to give me a basis for setting those points. Now he has very little distance between the top of his eye, where the eyelid is, and the brow. And the brow is kind of straight across. I'm going to angle it just a little bit. And some things to look for in terms of the shape of the upper lid. It's not like a straight, it's not a straight curve. It's not a perfect curve usually. We can see here that the upper lid comes up at an angle, it flattens but still rises, then it drops down. So it kind of has this idea to it. And the lower lid is more of a regular curve. In other words, it's more even. That's the inside of the eyeball, and then a little tear duct area comes out. So you want to look for the high point and kind of the low point, and look for, is there an even curve? Is there something more like this, where it's almost straight and then it drops down? So what is the overall idea or the angles of the upper lid compared to the lower lid? And in most people, the upper lid will hide or it'll cover part of the iris. Otherwise, they look like they're really surprised. Couple other things to think about. Compare vertically the inside of the eye and the flange of the nose. So the flange of the nose in this case is wider than the inside of the eye. He has a lot of width to the eyes and a bit of width to the this area here. So notice where the edges of the nose are. And he's got a very round nose. It's almost a an oval, kind of this idea. So it's fairly wide. And the thing is, if you gesture in like this, just like you did the circle and kind of brought the egg down and everything, keep those lines very light and then build on top of them. Those lines are your structure, your guidelines. And so keep them light, but keep them bare. Don't erase them, because those are the landmarks that you're going to use to build out the drawing. And now I'm looking for the top plane of the nose and how that relates to the glabella right here and how it goes into the brow. And it's there's a lot of curvature to it. So the mouth can be easily indicated with what the opening of the mouth is actually doing. And then the lower lip. The upper lip is usually wider than the lower lip, not always. But the lower lip will fall short of the ends of the mouth, here and here. And that's what it's doing there. Okay, a couple of suggestions. Instead of focusing on the edges and the outline contour, focus on the details on the interior and kind of, once you set that center line, work from the center out. One of the things that you want to do, and which helps in doing this kind of motion and this kind of motion, you basically complete one side and pull back up the other side. So it's one complete thing. And that helps you get a little more, shall we say, regularity or symmetry from side to side.
Okay.
Another thing to do is, since you've marked distances, so you've got the vertical axis, then you've got the horizontal axes, you can mark where that insertion point is and then echo it on the other side or mirror it on the other side. The same thing with the nose, here to here, and then connect. So make your marks on either side of the axis and then connect point A to point B.
Okay.
I think that's going to help you not or keep from getting things kind of skewed and distorted in that way. Don't lose the idea of structure. So relate in something like human beings are generally symmetrical with minor variations. So you want to make sure that you're judging distances and angles off of that center line. Don't lose the center line axis.
Okay.
And if you are looking at something from, say, a 3/4 view, and say the person's looking down, you can still deal with that center line axis and where things relate to it. In terms of, okay, so there's the nose, there's the eyes, so we know where to place those. So basically draw through the axis each time.
Okay.
So that you get what we want to do is continue from side to side. So if you're drawing the eyebrow here, just continue in terms of positioning directly across. Don't draw one eyebrow without first figuring out where the other one's going to go. Don't draw one eye or one pupil without figuring out where the other pupil is going to land.
Okay.
And that way you're going to be very much aware of your axes. Again, we're taking a non-academic approach, so it's basically we draw what we see, and we do it by, sorry for the noise, comparing those angles and comparing those distances, and becoming very aware of how one part relates to the other.
Right.
And so don't get too bogged down in the details until you get the structure and the framework set.
Yeah, I think I do that, and I jump around.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm drawing different,
And, you know, once you set your structure, then you can jump around, because if you watch me, I've gone from the mouth up to the eyes to the nose, back up to the eye, over to the eyebrow, oh, here's the hair, and then down to the mouth. But because I have the structure laid in, then I can go where I need to, and things will be positioned comfortably. So in other words, if we can say that this is the top of, well, let's see, we've got that distance. Yeah, so probably that's the top of his head, and he's got hair on top of it. So we have that distance. So what is this distance between where one ear inserts and the other ear inserts? How does that relate to the vertical distance? So we're making these comparisons and making these judgments and estimations. So once you get that set and you figure out the axis of the eyes, where the ears insert, the axis of the nose, the axis of the mouth, and kind of the base of the chin, leave that as your structure and your landmark, and then start building up the detail. But don't spend time out here on the edge.
Okay.
Just draw through. Just, you know, make one fell swoop, and then start. You know, set the pupil in the iris, set the pupil in the iris, build out the eye, figure out the width of the eye in relationship to the distance between the eyes. Where does the flange on the nose relate to the inside of the eye, the inside point? How wide is the mouth compared to the nose? In fact, there's sort of a triangular relationship that you can see here. He's got a low glabella, but then notice this relationship. So again, try to look at things in their most simple form. I would actually say don't draw with an eraser, just keep your lines light.
Okay.
And as you build up tone and things like that, if you get too frustrated, start over. Once it's kind of like, you know, you're learning to drive or you're learning to walk. Once you get the idea, it becomes second nature. And you want to get to the point where all of these things, to look at something and analyze it is second nature. But you can't get there without going through the learning process that can be really frustrating. And you have to think of everything at once. And you're not, when you're thinking of all these new things and, you know, oh, there's this and there's that and there's that, they're each an individual thing. And so it seems like a lot and seems like a lot of layers, but they actually, with practice, will start blending together and make total sense. And then you'll start seeing things like, oh, you know, this is this and this is doing that, and let's go for it.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where you can draw just out of your head because you can see it, you can imagine it, and then you can bring it into being. That's it for this session. I'm Alva Lynn Lundgren. Thanks for watching.